Good evening, fight fans. Jay's Fight Talk here with episode 11 of Straight Talk. As always, I've got my co-host of the No Punches Pulled podcast, Boxing Oracle and good friend of mine, Liam Tully. How are we?
Yeah, I'm all good, brother. I'm all good. Busy day of starting to landscape the garden with my dad. So being a full on day, like I said to you a little while ago. But always time to talk fight sports, mate. Always
Good,
time.
good, good. You don't get baby soft hands like that by doing manual work, so I won't even pretend that I know how landscaping a garden is. I'm lying, actually. I have actually done my own, believe it or not. I've done a patio once. I'll never do it again. But right,
We're
mate.
both still alive. That's the main thing.
We are, yeah, just. Few bits and bats. It's been a bit sporadic for fights and information. We are leading up to a couple of big fight weeks in terms of boxing, MMA, etc. And we'll go through some of the headlines. First one I've got here, we did touch on it briefly on the No Punches Pulled podcast, but I want to have more of an in-depth discussion and just get your take on it really. But the Beterbiev Bivol scenario, Bivol's belt, WBC belt being vacated, the sort of shit that is taken for that from the WBC, which screams of sour grapes, sour milk, whatever you want to call it, from them. They seem a little bit pissed that they haven't got the opportunity to have him under their gears for a massive fight. And what do you think of it all? It's I understand it, and I've got my own take on it, but I just want to hear your take on it, Liam.
Firstly, fair play to Bivol for standing up to a governing body and actually showing that they don't monopolise the sport, they don't monopolise the game, that he's not going to allow the governing body to get in the way of what he wants to do. That's first of all. So fair play to Bivol. Look, we're starting to see fighters do it more. Get rid of the belts so we see the fights we want.
Yeah.
Fury and Usyk done it for their second fight last year with the IBF belt, and now it's happening for this trilogy in this case. In terms of the WBC, I made the analogy on Tuesday night that it's a bit like a spoiled kids that mummy and daddy never says no to, and they're being
Yeah.
told no for the first time, so they're having a
So now
temper
kicking off.
tantrum.
Yeah.
And Maurizio Suleiman couldn't just do it once with saying about the message, the email from the lawyer. He's then had to give a press interview where he said how much he offered Bivol to fight Benavidez, which has been shot down with Eddie Hearn explaining how the Riyadh season purses are broken down. I mean, look, yes, you said the WBC don't now have the gaze of Bivol on this undisputed fight. Well, Beterbiev was meant to go straight into fight Benavidez as his mandatory after the first fight, but that magically disappeared for the rematch. You can do it once, you can do it twice. Look, we have our opinions on the governing bodies and how they work, but the reality is they make up the rules based on which way the wind's blowing on a certain day. That's the reality of it. So if Maurizio Suleiman wanted his belt to stay on the line for this fight that much, he just needed to click his fingers and it would have happened. I mean, it's sour grapes, it's piss poor, and you've now got a new champion in Benavidez. He's probably sitting there going, "Oh, this governing body don't actually want me having this belt." Kind of makes him feel as a world champion a bit shit, doesn't it?
That was my sort of main take from it was, yeah, I understand you're pissed. There was potential big unification matchup, but now you are actually saying that, well, okay, then Benavidez, you can have it, and they're sort of like giving him it, but they didn't want to give him it, and that as a Latin American, and we all know whether we like it or not that the WBC vehemently denies it, but they favour Latin American fighters. We get that, we know that, and we understand why, right? But this contradicts that because Maurizio Suleiman has been a massive supporter of David Benavidez over these past few years and has tried to get the fight made under the WBC as part of the unification. And now all of a sudden, because it's not done on his terms, he's sort of thrown his dummy out of the pram because ordinarily, if he'd have made that decision, it'd have been absolutely fantastic, and Benavidez would have been hailed as the second coming of Julio Cesar Chavez. But because he hasn't, there's been no pomp and ceremony. He's been made champion via email. They begrudgingly did an announcement. It felt like sort of a half-assed announcement. I just don't like it, and it don't sit well with me. Them spitting the dummy out as a governing body. They should have a little bit more decorum and class about them. You'd like to think. We have got our opinions on the organisation as a whole, but for keeping up appearances' sake, I would have expected them to make a statement and just say, look, we're fantastic news. You know, we wanted to announce a unification matchup, but we haven't had that. So the champion has been, they could have even said they'd stripped him, to be honest.
Yeah, it wouldn't.
You know, no one would have said anything. Bivol wouldn't have been asked. He don't care. Like we said, that third, the trilogy doesn't need belts anyway. And I think Bivol's proving that by sort of vacating the WBC. But I just feel that Benavidez was out in the cold anyway. I think he's more so out in the cold now because I don't think he'll fight Bivol or Beterbiev. I think we may see a double retirement post trilogy.
Look, for Bivol, for Beterbiev, it's a horrible position he's in because he stayed at 168 probably for too long because he was chasing the Canelo payday, wasn't he?
Benavidez, you mean?
Benavidez, sorry. He stayed at 168 for too long, chasing the Canelo cheddar, the Canelo payday. We all knew it was never going to happen, but obviously Maurizio was having words in his ear saying, no, we're going to force him to do it. We're going to force him to do it. Never materialised. So he's moved up to 168. He's beaten Morrell for a WBA regular and the WBC interim for what it's worth. And unfortunately, because those belts are with one fighter, he's now in the same position all over again. I mean, David Benavidez is a very exciting talent. He's 25, 26 years of age, so his best days are still to come. But he now needs to get in a run. Whoever he fights in his first defense of the WBC title needs to be a legitimate top 10 fighter. We don't want to go down the Kell Brook route of giving him a Jojo Dan or a Kevin Bizier for his first defense. We want to give him someone legit that if he comes through and gets a win, he can go, okay, I've not had Canelo down at the weight below. I've not had Beterbiev or Bivol at this weight class. But look, I've just beaten Callum Smith or someone of that ilk. Look at what I can now do. And he needs to start forging his own legacy because if the WBC don't care about him, then they're not going to be pushing his corner and giving him the biggest fights. He's got to do it himself.
Yeah, it's a Callum Smith for me. I think Callum Smith's done enough beating Buatsi to prove that he's still got something at world level. He's got an interim. Is it the WBO?
WBO, because Buatsi's had that for a while.
Yeah, so I'd like to see Callum Smith get that fight. They could make that fight over here and it'd be fairly big. I don't think it's an Anfield fight, but it's big. I mean, it'll do 20,000. I mean, they could stick it in Anfield and that, but I would like to see Callum Smith. But look, we'll be waiting with bated breath for any impending announcements. I'm pretty sure we'll get one in the coming weeks. Next one. I hate having to talk about this kid, but look, his promotional outfit are making some big signings. So we've got most valuable promotions? Most valuable promotions. MVP promotions have signed Ellie Scottney and other women. Look, great for the women. They get massive paydays. Can I be honest? Right. And I love boxing. And if a signing with a certain promotional outfit gets an individual better paydays than what they would staying elsewhere, then that's great because it's all about prize fighting and the prize that they get for the fights. And everybody's praising Jake Paul. I said his name on the podcast, and it's probably the first and last time that I will. But look, they're all praising him for what he's doing for female boxing. I'm going to give an alternate opinion. I don't think he gives a shit about women's boxing. I think it's more about taking fighters from other promoters. And I think that's the issue for me because I don't think there's any longevity in this. I think as soon as he gets flattened properly in a proper fight, I think MVP promotions will dwindle away into the ether. As I said, initially it's great. They're going to get some big paydays. The likes of Ellie Scottney will probably get 5 times what she would fighting under Matchroom or Boxer, who's the other stable that has a lot of women. But for me, it stinks of a gimmick to get at other, because he keeps saying, look, we care. No one else cares about female boxing, and they're talking shit. But he's got the backing to be able to give out the big purses that none of the. It's not that the other promoters can. I just don't think they see the value in it, and the shows that he does are different. So the value's there, and he can afford to pay millions, where Matchroom and the likes would pay hundreds of thousands, maybe. What's your take on it, pal?
It's exactly what you said, mate. Look, MVP I'm all for them giving these women the opportunities because they deserve the opportunities to have the same paydays that their male counterparts get. If
Yeah.
MVP is the promotional outfit to give them those paydays, then go for it. What did we say about Taylor Serrano too landing on the Paul Tyson circus? So let's not call it a fight, let's call it a circus. We were all for it because Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano both deserve the payday. So I will
Yeah.
carry on that narrative. I have no issue with the women earning the money, but to come out and say, oh, yeah, we're the only ones that care about female boxing. You've got two envelopes, mate. You've got one with 20 grand in, and you've got one with 3 million in. Which one are you going to go for? And that's what's being
Let me
dangled in front
think.
of. Let's use Ellie Scottney as an example. Matchroom, she turned over with Matchroom. She's been brought free with Matchroom. We know where her loyalty. We knew where her loyalties lied in that sense. But
Yeah.
Jake Paul and Nikita, whatever his name is man that he does it with, has dangled a couple of million in front of her for this unification fight and probably promised they're undisputed. And no 24-year-old kids, which is what Ellie Scottney is going to turn down that sort of money.
No.
Nor would we want her to turn down that sort of money to stay with Matchroom. The issue will come in 2 or 3 years' time because even if Jake Paul doesn't get flatlines, he's not going to stay in boxing forever. At some point, he will have burned every single possible bridge for him in boxing. I mean,
Yeah.
he's doing a pretty good job. Him and Matchroom have just come to that out-of-court settlement from 2 or 3 years ago, the other week.
Yeah.
We know he's burning bridges. We know he's not well thought of within the established boxing circles for all the reasons we could speak about for the rest of the night. So it's short term. It's a short term vision, but we hope Katie Taylor in these fight in November and in the fight in July is now getting legacy defining paydays that will
Yeah.
make sure that her children's children are set for life. That's what we're hoping for. We hope Ellie Scottney is going to earn good money for however many fights she has there, because when they do, someone like Ellie Scottney will have to come back to a Matchroom or a boxer or something else in the future. It's not an issue for Katie Taylor. It's not an issue for Amanda Serrano.
They're at the end.
Ellie Scottney, as long as she's getting well rewarded and she's left Matchroom in such a way that she can come back in 18 months to 2 years, which I hope she has. I don't think she's not the type of person you think that's going to burn all her bridges. Then I've got no issue with it. Look, make hay while the sun shines and all of that cliches you can throw at it. I'm happy to see it happen. And let's be honest, this Netflix card in July is a banger. You've got 13 world title belts across 4 fights. That is a very
it's a decent card. I think the issue for me is the way Jake Paul, well, he doesn't negotiate. He just goes steaming in, makes offers. What he's going to make it is, it's going to be very similar to when Al Heyman signed all the fighters. He could make some great fights within PBC, but because he pissed everybody else off, they didn't want to work with him.
Yeah.
So say for example, Caroline Dubois, I can't see her fighting anybody under the MVP banner because nobody wants to work with them. So he's going to end up having great fights initially, but then there's going to be no other fights left to put on, and no one's going to work with him. The girls have got an unrealistic expectation of their worth in terms of finances. You know, Ellie Scottney is going to end up going back to Matchroom and thinking she can demand $1 million, $2 million a fight, and Eddie Hearn's going to be like, yeah, how does 60 grand? How's 60 grand work? So yeah, it's great, legacy defining, and they're going to make some initial great paydays, but long term, it's not a great move for me. It's not.
Yeah. Completely agree, mate. Look, short term, fantastic. Long term, damaging. And that's why for Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano, they don't care. They don't need to be thinking about 2 or 3 years' time because they're going to be retired on the beach with their feet up. Well, Katie Taylor definitely will be. Wouldn't surprise me if Amanda Serrano's still knocking around. But someone like Ellie Scottney is still going to be fighting, you would assume, based off of the fact she's only going to be 26 years of age. She may not, she may retire, but the logic dictates she will still be fighting.
We will see. We will see. Right, this one has done my head in today. David Adelaide and Jamie TKV2 has been ordered by the British Boxing Board of Control.
Why?
That's exactly the question I posed earlier on today on socials. Why? Why have you ordered it, British Boxing Board of Control? We'd like to know why. Because there's no reason to order it. If that fight wasn't ended wrongly by some terrible refereeing, and look, I can't state this any clearer. I'm not personally digging out the referee as an individual, right? What I'm pissed off about is refereeing in general across the board, judging in general across the board, and the way that boxing, and let's look at the British Boxing Board of Control, because, you know, we're Brits, so it's all we've got to reference, right? I don't like the way they deal with stuff. You know, totally different. But Conor Benn, for example, he got cleared by the British Boxing Board of Control. He's allowed to box, and he has this thick dossier, and he's spent £1 million of his own money clearing his name, and he's been proven to be a clean athlete. No, you haven't, because until we see definitive proof, and his answer to that statement is, look, I know, and my team know. That's not good enough, right? So let's just park that. But that fight on Saturday night ended wrong. It shouldn't have ended like that. It should have been null and void. It should have been made a no contest, right? And they try to put the baby back in with the bathwater, or the toothpaste back in the tube. So what they've done is, to appease the masses, they've said, I tell you what, we're ordering a rematch, which is fantastic, and that's what should be done. But if that's the case, then are they going to make the first fight a no contest and explain to us why they've had to make the second fight? Because if they're not going to make it a no contest or avoid it, then we shouldn't be having the rematch, because then we need to justify the rematch. It ended with a knockout. TKV got knocked out, right? If that's what, you know, that was the result of the fight. On paper, TKV got knocked out round 5, 6, 7, whatever it was. Why are we rematching then? Because it wasn't close. He got knocked out. We're rematching because the referee messed up, did something not within the rules. He's supposed to call break. He's supposed to make them actively break. He didn't do that. He shouted break, 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 touched TKV's arm and let Adelaide crack him on the break, and he knocked him out. They need to make a statement for me, but it's too late now, because if they make a statement now, it's because they're being pressured into it by, you know, the likes of us, and not us, but people on social media expressing their disgust at the way it's been handled. I think disgust probably a bit of a strong word, but I'm angry at it, definitely. What's your take on it, Liam? I know we've spoke off camera, but you know, we're on camera now, so give us it. What are you saying?
It's a mess. To be honest, look, let's be really honest. This fight isn't reordered because it's a fight of the year contender.
Absolutely
Adelaide
not.
TKV was a tough watch, and that was with me watching it back after the fact, knowing what happened.
Knowing what had happened,
Yeah,
we watched it live, mate.
It was a tough watch, and it was a slog. It would not have been ordered if it was just Adelaide finally got to TKV, got the stoppage, had his arm raised. It's being ordered because of the mistake that a British Boxing Board of Control official has made. Let's not dress it up in any other way. Their official has made a mistake. This fight needs to be redone. To come out and order the rematch, they just think, oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, everyone will be happy. We get to see the fight again. No, tell us why. We're not saying throw your official under a bus and say, oh, they've made a massive mistake. How dare they make a mistake? X, Y, and Z. But it's not on. It's not good enough. It's not acceptable. We're now in a position where we want an explanation. Look, the Border Control Blazers get together on the first Wednesday of every month in Cardiff. And when they do, you can guarantee some sort of afterthought statement will come out. But it will be almost a month after the fact, 2 weeks after this. It's not good enough. For a bit of context for you, Merseyside derby last week, Tarkowski absolutely cleared out. I can't remember which Liverpool player, and was only given a yellow card.
McAllister.
By half time, the PGMOL had come out and said the referee and VAR have got this wrong. It should have been a red card.
Yeah.
And all that done was, okay, they've got it wrong, but it's been acknowledged. Doesn't change what's happened.
But they'll acknowledge the mistake.
But there's an acknowledgement. If the Border Control released a statement on Sunday saying that their referee had made a mistake, we stand by the result of the fight. However, an immediate rematch within 120 days is being awarded. Wouldn't be saying boo to a goose. We wouldn't be saying another word about it. We'd be like, okay, we're going to get the rematch in the summer. Now, we're still looking, Are we looking forward to the rematch? I mean, it's a British heavyweight title fight, so there's always an element of looking forward to it in there. But we're going to all now gloss over the facts, aren't we? That the reason this fight's happening is because of the referees.
This is the problem with the British Boxing Board of Control, right? It's an old pals club, right?
Yeah.
And it feels as though they don't want to throw their mate under the proverbial bus, the referee, because they'll have known him for 30 years. They'll all go drinking together. They'll eat. You know, we see the same referees show in, show out, don't we? The same judges show in, show out. So they're a clique, the mates, the pals. My brother was a pro, so I've been behind the scenes. I've seen the likes of Howard Foster and Michael McDonald and that chatting, and the pals, they've worked together for 30 odd years, 40 odd years. However, that's a massive problem because what's right is right. As you said, the PGMOL, who are run by former referees, so they know these guys, have come out and publicly stated, listen, he got it wrong. We got it wrong. That's not throwing him under the bus. Look, we all make mistakes. I make them every day, be that at home or in my personal life. You've got to front them up. It's not about attacking the referee, but if the British Boxing Board of Control would have come out Sunday morning or Monday morning, because don't forget, this has happened today after Ben Davison and Thingy have argued, Adam Booth have argued, sort of had a spat on Twitter.
Yeah.
Adelaide and TKV have sort of voiced their opinions and disdain and whatnot on that. So it feels as though the British Boxing Board of Control have to be seen to be doing something. So I tell you what, let's just make the rematch, and that's enough. That for me leaves more questions than answers, right? If they'd have just come out and said, I forget the ref's name. Look, they don't even have to name him. All they've got to say is, look, we're going to overturn the result. We're going to call a no contest because we believe that the ending wasn't, to the British Boxing Board of Control's standard of rules or standard practice or whatever, right? That's all they've got to say. The referee made a mistake. It's blatantly obvious he made a mistake. The fact that they're covering up for him and just making the rematch, that makes it actually worse for me than just coming out and saying, look, we made a mistake. We're going to nullify the contest. I don't even nullify the contest. Just say, look, we made a mistake. It shouldn't have ended the way it ended. We could have used the replay because they've got the option to use replay, have they not? They have the option, do they? I think they do.
I'm not sure. I tell you what,
should do. They should do.
I tell you what makes it even worse, and this is on audio that was picked up only by TalkSport, so it wasn't picked up by DAZN as far as I'm aware. When the referees then being spoken to in the corner, Barry Smith and Ben Davidson are going over asking what's going on. You said break. Why is this standing? The referee has denied. You can hear it on the audio. Not only did he touch TKV, but then he said break.
Yeah. Has he denied saying break?
Yeah, he's denied it.
And I think that might be why then.
There's one of two. Look, everyone makes mistakes. We've just said that.
He might have forgot. His adrenaline.
To deny it, it's almost as if.
Yes, Antonio, how we doing, brother?
Denying it makes it even worse.
Yeah, it does for me because it makes me think, look, has he forgot? His adrenaline's pumping and, it's a big fight, two big guys, and he's just forgot. Or is he just lying because he realizes he's made a mistake and he's trying to cover it up? That's even worse for me. That makes it even worse.
The cynic in me goes with the latter.
Me too.
He's in the moment and he's being confronted by, let's be really honest, Ben Davidson, when he gets going, because he's quite a tall guy, he's going to be right in this referee's face.
It was a short guy.
He was getting dwarfed by the two lads fighting, never mind Ben Davidson. And it's kind of he's dropped a clanger. If he in that moment went, look, I've got it wrong, lads, you guarantee that Ben Davidson then doing what he's done on social media
wouldn't have done that.
Doesn't happen. Barry Smith backstage in the interview he done with Stomping Ground, I think it was, where he's apoplectic and he's struggling to get his words out, probably doesn't happen. And I saw those interviews and went, right, look, there's a mistake here, but these lads are really het up. I've then subsequently seen or heard the audio of the referee saying he never done it, and it completely makes sense.
It's a mess, man.
Yeah, it's almost as if you've watched someone at work go into the tills and take 20 quid out, and you know you got it on the cameras as well. And you go to them and confront them, and they say, "No, you're not." And you're showing them the footage. No, I didn't do that. I didn't do that.
You've been watching me at work. Wasn't me. Wasn't me.
They would be that apoplectic. You would be that het up about it. It's a shame because look, Adelaide and TKV don't need to fight again. It was diabolical for 6.5 rounds. Let's call it what it was. It was not a good fight. But here we are, now knowing we're going to get a rematch.
Wicked. Can't wait.
And it will probably be a main event because even if it goes on Boxer, they will sell it as a main event. Look, Boxer need that as a main event. Would I object to Boxer getting it as a main event on Sky? No. They need that. A bit of edge, a bit of drama. Put it at the copper box. You sell out the copper box, most likely. Not something I'll be going 45 minutes down the road for, if I'm being honest. There's other things I want to spend my money on if I can in the coming weeks. But look, it will do decent numbers. And that's what we're going to get now. So Adelaide TKV Part 2 coming to us probably in the summer.
Woohoo! Can't wait. Right, sticking with the heavyweights then. So I know that, Fabio Wardley's getting his shot and it looks like Usyk is going to fight Daniel Dubois, right? But Jalalov has since come out and said he wants Usyk. I've got a mad feeling, with him being a Russian that has a bit of a beard, that we may get Usyk versus Jalalov sooner than we think. What's your take on that, Liam?
Is Jalalov talented?
Yep.
Yes, he is.
Not enough.
Did Jalalov disrespect the professional arena to go and have a second go at an Olympic Games?
Yes.
Yes. Does he now come back in and, based off of the performance he produced in Vegas on Saturday night, now warrant calling out the best to do it in this generation at both cruiser and heavy? Not in a month of Sundays. Not in a month of any of those sort of acronyms you want to throw at it. Do I think Usyk will take it? Only if it's the biggest paycheck you can put in front of that man.
That was my... So the reason I'm thinking is the Russian-Saudi connection. And I'm just thinking that behind the scenes, the fight will be made rather than, what's right, what's deserved. Because I think it would be a massive fight in terms of Russia versus the Saudi, the sort of in together out there. I think, is Jalalov a Muslim? I'm not sure.
I think he is.
And that's what makes me think that we'll possibly get this fight, because he's there. He's the standout. He's the only Muslim heavyweight, I think. I'm not sure if what's his name is Muslim. Knocked out Zhang. Can't remember his name.
Caballero.
I'm not sure if Caballero is. I might be wrong. But look, I've got a funny feeling they're going to try sneak that fight in.
Usyk doesn't do it, mate. If Usyk's going to carry on fighting, he'll do it for Dubois so he can become a 3-time undisputed champion across 2 weight divisions.
Yeah.
And then I'm struggling to think who else he might do it for. If he beats Dubois and Fury decides he wants another crack, possibly Fury, but I don't see there's many. He's not going to fight Caballero. He's not going to fight Parker. He's not going to fight an Italma or a Chisora again or someone like that. So I think he's only going to take Dubois and possibly Tyson if he comes back.
Yeah. What you spotted? You spotted something?
Something just came. Your message about Shakan Pisses and Ray's just come up on my phone.
Yeah, making that fight.
It's just frustrating, mate. I think Jalalov is trying to make himself more relevant because he's realised his career is absolutely stalling after making the decision to go back into the amateur game.
Yeah.
Usyk dismantles him within 6 or 7 rounds.
Easy work. It's an easy night's work.
Usyk isn't known for stopping people since he's moved up to heavyweight, but he stops Jalalov, and that's kind of all I've got to say about it.
Cool. We'll leave it there. Last one on the heavyweights. Moses Atauma is scheduled to fight Ademola. Well, they call him Mike Balogun. Yeah, we probably. I thought Liam saw a goal. Yeah, I did myself. To be fair, Antonio, I didn't know what he were looking at. I thought he spotted
Yeah,
a
no, sorry,
goal.
mate. I got distracted. I apologise.
Mike Balogun. I think Gassiev knocked him out, if I remember rightly.
Gassiev is the loss in his record, which
Yeah,
is a name, but a name at cruiserweight. Let's call
yeah,
that
he's not a
what it is.
heavyweight, is he?
Um,
Absolutely not.
the curious case of Moses Atama, let's call it that, because
Because
look,
sorry, just a quick one. He is also 41. Is Balogun, so he's no spring chicken. I wanted a tougher test for Moses, if I'm honest, because we were talking about him fighting Pulev next. And then this, for me, is a bit of a step down. But, sorry, go on.
the curious case of Moses Atama, let's call it that, because we were told that even if it was the Pulev fight, he was going to go to break Tyson's record of being the youngest heavyweight champion.
Yeah.
We had our opinions on Pulev, but for the sake of a record, whatever, go and do it, kids. Go and pick up a regular world title. Fine. Don't care. All good. To then say he's going to be out on the card that was last weekend and he's got moved off of it. We still don't know why he's been moved off of it. Is he injured? What was it? Also sounded weird. And now we're getting him in Glasgow. Look, it's great we're getting him out for the first time since December. But are we getting greedy with Moses in the sense that because of the path he's now treading, I mean, Marius Wack and Dempsey McCain in his last two fights, we expect to see him on a certain level. I mean, for a 20-year-old that's 12, 13 and 0, whatever he is, to be fighting 21 and 1 is good. It's better than we were getting from Anthony Joshua
Yeah.
and people like that at this point. I just wonder, a Queensbury suddenly going, oh crap, Moses is moving a bit faster than we're ready for him to. We don't want him running into Dubois or Usyk or anyone like that yet. So we're going to pull him back a little bit, which isn't a good look because we wouldn't want to see him in at the British level with Adelaide or TKV or Fraser Clark or anyone like that. The European belt isn't what it used to be. So it's kind of a, what do you do with him?
God. I think you've just got to take the brakes off now and just let him go, man. We can't. I mean, I'd put him in with David Adelaide. Let him get the British, throw him in there, get him the British, get him the European, and then get him a world title fight for me. I don't know. It's a strange one because he's absolutely fantastically talented, but I'm just worried because he hasn't actually boxed anyone of any great shakes yet, has he? Anybody in there? He needs to fight somebody in their prime. Doesn't necessarily have to fight a top 5 guy, but a top 20 in their prime. So somebody, under 35, that's got less than a handful of defeats, I think, would stand him a good test. That's why I think throw him in there with somebody like Adelaide, or maybe the loser of Adelaide TKV next. But I think he's surpassing that level by going straight in against the American. The American has a bit of a name, I suppose. But if he's as good as they're telling us he is, then get him the British, the European, and then the world. It's a funny one, isn't it?
It is a funny one, but I almost think putting him in with Adelaide is too much of a step back now. It's too much of a row back because regardless of what we think of Pulev, we were talking about him fighting for a version of the heavyweight world title. So there's only so many places you can go. Look, let's see. This may just be, maybe he has been injured. And Ben Davidson and that have asked to get him an opponent, to get him out, for him then to push on in the summer. So let's reserve judgment until we see what comes next. But it's a curious move, I think is the best way to explain it.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll leave that one there. Just a quick, what we got here. Hope you're well, guys. I'm actually going to the Josh Taylor Esserman fight, and I'm looking forward to seeing Moses fight.
Good
card.
card.
Yeah, good card. I hope you're not a Josh Taylor fan because Esserman's going to knock him dead, but I'm joking, by the way, before anybody. I think it's a tough fight for Josh to come back to. I think Josh will win that fight, but I think it's a tough fight. So, yeah, enjoy the card, mate. It's not that far away now. Right, what have we got left on the headlines? Taylor Serrano 3, the press conference. God love Katie Taylor. Even when she shit talks, she could talk a glass eye to sleep. She is the fucking most monotone person I have ever heard. God love her. She's fantastic. She's one of the goats for me, or goats as we. I put her above Claressa Shields. I don't care what anybody says. I know Claressa's jumped about the weight divisions, but I'm talking about what Katie Taylor's done in terms of she came first. She came through first. In some respects, Nicola Adams is up there for me as well in terms of what they've done for trailblazing and being pioneers of the sport. But look, the press conference kicked off. Serrano tried to say that Katie shook her hands and promised her this would be 12 threes. Katie's reneged on that. And Katie turned around and said, look, I'm the champ. I call the shots. We shook hands and we were going to do threes. If you won, you lost. Serrano said, no, we said win or lose.
Yeah.
Katie Taylor came back at her and said, look, I'm the champ. It is what it is. I'm 2-0 against you, which some people could argue it's 1-1, but, you know, let's go with it. Yeah, so there's a bit of shit talk. They're trying to get this fight. But for me, this fight doesn't need it. If you're into boxing, you love this fight, irrespective of whether the shit talking. What was the head guard about at the face-off? I don't understand what was that.
The head guard was because in the rematch, Katie Taylor was apparently leading with her head loads. That's what caused that massive cut. So Serrano saying Katie Taylor needed to use her head to win. Was that press conference when I woke up and saw it this morning more fiery than I expected? Absolutely it was. Look, yeah. Katie Taylor was trying, God bless her, and Serrano was being... Serrano, we don't need to see the trilogy.
No.
We're seeing the trilogy for the exact same reasons we were talking about MVP, Jake Paul, and money.
It's the biggest fight they can make.
So we'll leave it at that. Katie Taylor should be having a trilogy, but it should be against Chantel Cameron because that legitimately is 1-1. Yeah. So that's where we're at. Look, the trash talk is cringy. We don't need it. I'll get excited about this fight on Fight Week in July because I feel like I know what's going to happen. Katie Taylor again will make it 3-0. That's where I'm at. That's
yeah. I hope she retires after that.
So do I. We don't need to see it.
She ain't got any. I don't know what Katie's going to do outside of boxing other than be an ambassador or a coach because she's. I don't think she's got anything outside of boxing really, and it's you know. But look, we're excited to see the fight, even though we don't believe the fight is needed. Right, we'll leave that one there. Last one I've got here before any other business. Keyshawn Davis de Los Santos is back on. It's been on. It's been off. It's been on. It's been off. It's definitely on now. Apparently. It's been off twice before I even realised it was back on. I didn't even realise it had been off, but then when I've looked at the timeline...
I'd seen like a little rumour it was off, but then as soon as I saw that, it was back on. My opinion was the same about when we spoke about as what we said when it was announced the week before last. Keyshawn's getting a quick defence before he moves towards bigger fights. I love it. Let's do it.
Same here, mate. Looking forward to it. Yeah. Right. Any other business, Liam? Have you got anything you'd like to discuss before we call it a night? That's it, really. It's a 40-minute show this evening. Thank you for everybody that's joined us. You will be able to... I think we're doing UFC 314 this week. I don't think there's any boxing other than Ennis and Stanionis.
We're going to try and do all of it, aren't we?
Yeah, you will catch probably two of the three of us at some stage in the early hours of Sunday morning. I'm going to be doing it, Liam is, and Sam. So you can catch us over on SW Fight Hub's YouTube channel. I don't know, from sort of 2 a.m. onwards, early hours. Late Saturday, early Sunday morning, we'll be doing Ennis versus Stanionis and Ray Ford at super featherweight. And then we'll be crossing straight over for UFC 314. Which is headlined by Alex Volkanovski and Diego Lopez. What's this one here? Thoughts on Eddie pulling Pacheco from the MBLPs? I haven't got any thoughts about it, if I'm honest. I think they're just saying that they want to go in a different direction. I think Billy, I just don't think it's a massive fight. I get that it's a unification, but I just think they've got bigger plans.
Sorry, mate. It was a fight you were only ever going to see for me if there was a world title on it. There ain't a world title on it yet, so
no point.
It is what it is. If he pulled him out of a world title purse bids, there'd be more stress on it, but is what it is at this point.
It is what it is. So yes, thank you to Paddy, Antonio, anybody else that's joined us. We appreciate you interacting, watching. As always, like, comment, share, and subscribe. You can catch me over on Jay's Fight Talk YouTube channel and X. You've got Liam_Tully9. He also has a show, Liam's Fight Night Picks, as well as Straight Talk with myself over on Jay's Fight Talk YouTube channel. I'll say it again, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Keep punching.